Welcome to Frida Moletsky Healing Arts. I'm your host, Frida, and I am the healing artist. Friends, for this hump day healing, I'm kind of feeling inspired to share a little bit more about channeling. So I learned to channel, I think maybe in 2022, and it's just something that the more and more I clear out my own body and my own stuff and get my personal energy system moving smoother, cleaner, just sort of removing blocks, traumas, removing that stuff from my system, the easier it is to open up my crown enormous, and bring information and to speak through my mouth. So I think that there's different ways in which this information comes in that I would just explain. And that is that sometimes the information comes in, especially when I'm teaching, and I'll use that information, like I'll interpret it. So like I hear the channel come through and then I interpret the information and share it with the students. Sometimes the way that it comes through in class when I'm sharing is it will be like light will get channeled through my body, and then that light is what I then pass on to the students for whatever we're working with, or I'll get hits on where we're working in the body and stuff like that. But it's all coming from sort of just being really, really open to source coming through my body. So something that's very interesting that happened very recently, so a few days ago, while I was in my Magdalene Mysterium, doing the priestess training program that I'm in, we had the beautiful gift of having a guest speaker, Alethea Sophia, who is an author. She has many books that she's written, but she is located in the Cathars region in the south of France. And she came through with this profound energy that was so powerful. I spent that class weeping. It was a combination of feeling like falling in love and also just tears of joy just streamed from my face the entire time she was talking. So this human being was holding an energetic frequency that I connected with in such a way that it activated within me this incredible emotional response. And it also activated within me the ability to tap into speaking light language. So if you're familiar with light language, that's something that you may have heard channels or healers do in the past, but it's bringing through language that is not of this world. It is, you're speaking in tongues, basically. So it was later that day, after just cry, being in this room with this woman, and it was an amazing class, and our teacher, Sita Kayara, was, we did this incredible anointing ceremony where we were like working on, I baptized myself, basically. Anyway, this full circles back to the fact that I have been learning about THECLA. She originally came into my awareness 6 or more months ago, maybe a year time. I swear, y'all. It's the first, I met her when I first listened to Mary Magdalene Revealed. I believe THECLA was mentioned in there. And she immediately lit me up from head to toe. Who is this woman? The name, even just the name, THECLA. I wrote it down and I would repeat it to myself. It was so bright to me. I was instantly intrigued. And from there, I've learned some more about her. She has an apocryphal gospel. So the Acts of THECLA and Paul, or maybe it's Paul and THECLA, I'm not sure how that. And she is a saint in the Catholic tradition. She's Saint THECLA. There's some churches and cathedrals for her throughout the world. Not tons, but some. And her main cathedral, from like looking around online, and her main, like her end story, happened in where it's now Turkey. And her story is one of true faith. And she inspires me so much because it's a time when women did not have rights. They were definitely often viewed as the property of men. They just did not have place, really. And Thecla's story goes is that she is a younger virgin, and she is captivated by the Apostle Paul, who is, and this is after Yeshua's death, so he's ascended, he's become the Christ light, that story is complete, and now here Paul is going and preaching. She's in her window, she's looking out, she's hearing Paul share the story of Jesus Christ. She's sharing the Gospels, the teachings, and please forgive me if I'm not using the right words. Like if you're a theologian, then I'm using the wrong words. I apologize for that. It's, me trying to like translate the story to you. So he's out there preaching. She sees him. She completely and totally falls in love with the message. She won't eat or drink. She won't leave the window. And she's at the window for days listening. And her mother is just like, screw this. This is ridiculous. Because Christians at the time were a no-go. That's a no in Roman times. So she's listening. She gets completely, yes. All I want is Paul, the teachings of Paul. So her mother is like, absolutely not. The person who she is supposed to get married to is like, absolutely not. So she bribes, Paul gets taken and locked up and put in jail. And she bribes the guards with, there's multiple versions of this, but her bracelets or her earrings. And she gets herself in there and she's able to bribe another guard with her hand mirror, sit at the feet of Paul, and basically like listen to him share his teachings. And she's sold. She's all in. And that is the aspect of THECLA that I just find so incredibly appealing. This notion of falling in love so deeply with something and just knowing like you know, and it just being so enraptured that you're willing to give up anything to share this word, to stand and defy the normal in order to speak your truth. That is very, very attractive to me. Anyway, so she's at the feet of Paul. She's listening all night. They get in trouble. They get caught. They get in trouble. The mom is super mad. She's like, screw you. We're making an example of you. We are going to burn you at the stake because everybody needs to see what an insolent bad daughter you are so that we don't create any more insolent bad daughters. Get out into the middle of the square. You're going to get burned. So thanks, Mom. So THECLA goes, and Paul, meanwhile, is taken out of sight of the city limits, beaten or whipped, or just he's given a hard time. And then he goes off to a cave and basically is praying for, I think it's like 6 days, for THECLA's, for her to be okay. She's in the middle of the town square. She's going to be burned. She refuses to give up on her new Christian faith, and she goes up to be burned. The bonfire is enormous, and there's multiple versions of this story now that I've read and heard and to understand, but basically some sort of weather event takes place, and she's up there and she's still preaching her Christianity and she's still saying the word. She believes fully in God, and God saves her by bringing a deluge of rain, and the bonfire is put out so that she is not burned. And there were some other versions where just like some sort of natural disaster style event took place so that the fire is put out. And in some of those stories, other people in the town die from the fire, but that she is spared. So take that for what it's worth. Anyway, Thecla meets up with this other kid that is like the baker's boy or something, and he happens to be, he's like, oh my gosh, I thought that you were going to perish. And she's like, no, I was saved by God. And she's like gonna beat it and hit the streets. And he's like, hey, I know where Paul is. He's hanging out in this cave. Let me take you over there and you guys can hang out together and see each other. So she goes, meets up with Paul, and she says to him, and Paul's happy to see her. And then she's like, hey, would you baptize me? Because, you know, obviously she has been through trial by fire. And like Paul's willingness to baptize people into the Christian faith is like pretty easygoing. He's willing to give it to men without a lot of question, just like, and he says, oh God, no, you're not ready yet. Because Paul, if you even look back, even like say, just the story from like say Jesus Christ Superstar, the musical, Paul doesn't like Mary Magdalene. He's like a jerk. He kind of is this sexist dweeb. In my personal opinion, Paul kind of sucks. Anyway, he's really steeped in the patriarchy, as in women have their place. They should not. He's super jealous when you hear about like when Mary Magdalene is in the Bible, and she apparently is given information that only she is allowed to have from Jesus, and Paul's salty about it. So, like, in my personal opinion, he's kind of a jerk, especially from today's standards. Or, you know, he's just doesn't think that women have the same clout as men. They're just simply a second-class citizen. Like, full stop. So, okay, let's see. Where were we? Thecla says, Paul, I will follow you, and I will preach with you. And yeah, I want to share the good news. I want to preach Christianity and stand up and preach the gospel. So they go off together, and like there's multiple stories of just apparently she was very beautiful, and people would try to bribe Paul to marry her or have their way with her. And there's just stories of her where like a man tries to kiss her in the street, a very important man, when they're on their travels, and she pushes him away. She says, I do not know you. She rips his clothing, and she's just like, this was unusual behavior because women were not allowed to be in any kind of position of power or using their voice. They're just second-class citizens, and Paul is always just like, I don't know this woman. He just always is denying her. Sound familiar? Because he's also the denier in the story after, between Jesus being crucified and not, or after he's crucified, he was also just like, I don't know him. So when confronted, Paul seems to like to cut and run. Again, listen, I am not a theologian. I am not super studied in the Bible. I was raised Christian. I'm familiar with the musical Jesus Christ Superstar. I freaking love the energy of Thecla and some other strong women in the Bible. I love Mary Magdalene, and I love Yeshua. Like, I love Jesus Christ. Like, I love these energies. As far as the religious aspect of these things, less so. I think that religion is something that is meant to tame and control the people, and at one point, while probably extremely important, that is no longer something that I feel like we need. So I have definitely moved into the more spiritual aspect of the more mystic Christian tradition, and not at all associated with the current state of organized religion. No. But, you know, in these stories, there are energies for us to hold sacred and learn from. There are energies here that deeply move me. So I also cannot turn away from that. There is a true truth in many of those biblical stories that ring very true in my heart. So again, back to the THECLA story. She's forever getting into little trouble and then some big trouble. So there was another situation where, because she's been a mouthy woman, let's just call her that, and it's always and she stays a virgin, so she denies men. She's just like, I'm all in it for God. Anyways, she is out there and ultimately is going to get offered up in the Colosseum because she is loud, proud, will not stop talking about God, has this unbelievable faith in her Christian traditions. And yeah, this is the really main story when you hear about the sainthood, the Saint Thecla, is that she gets offered up in the Colosseum and she gets taken out there, and all the people are like, woo, 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 woo. They're excited to watch her die. They absolutely hate Christians. They're the worst. And they release a lion. There's multiple stories of this again, right? So this is the story I like the most. They release a lion into the Colosseum, and the lion goes up to Thecla, but her faith is so incredibly strong that it just reads this off of her, and it sort of lays down, and it just sort of turns into a pussycat at her feet. It wouldn't harm her. In fact, the lion is now going to protect her. So to the Colosseum, they release a bear, and the lion actually protects Thecla by killing the bear. And then they release a rhinoceros, and the lion, again, protects Thecla, and the rhinoceros does not kill her. In fact, again, lays down at her feet style situation. Meanwhile, disguised, Paul is in the audience, watching this all play out, and Lord knows why. I couldn't guess. But he's there watching her, and she's just down there speaking her faith, right? Just being this strong Christian woman that is just completely and totally in love with her teachings that she is expounding to the heavens. Speak, speak, speak. Then they have I've heard this two ways. One, they flood the Colosseum, or that there's a basin of water, part of the Colosseum has a pit of water in it that would have had, I forget what they were called in the story, but they think that they're sea lions, with the tusks, sea lion. No, sea lions don't have tusks. A walrus? I'm not sure, but some sort of carnivorous sea creature that can be on land and also in the water. Anyway, she throws herself, she's screw this, after everything she's been through in the middle of the Colosseum, she sees Paul, and she's screw you, Paul, I'm going to baptize myself. I'm adding the screw you part. But she had repeatedly asked him over the years and time that she was traveling with him, will you baptize me, baptize me, baptize me? And he never would. He always said she's not ready. So Thecla is in the Colosseum, and she baptizes herself. She drops herself into this pool of water, which have these beasts in it that would have eaten her, but they do not. And she baptizes herself. Oof, and that just gives me chills. And at this point, 3 different kinds of things have tried to kill her and didn't kill her. So the rules of the Colosseum are, well, then she gets to go free. So this idea of, this is where Thecla just gives me the ultimate heart expansion. The idea of the patriarchy, who is Paul, the idea of this man saying that you cannot do something, and then at the same time just being nothing but faithful and just nothing but devoted and following one's own path and speaking from the womb to the heart to the throat to out the mouth, doing this, she is out there bringing the gospel. And then he says, no, you're not ready, and never making her equal, never allowing her. And she says, I am equal, and baptizes herself. The energy of that is so strong, and I want to impart that to you, and I just want to hold that within my own being, that nothing, that we are these impenetrable beings of light, that no other person can hold us down. We are connected to source energy, connected to ourselves, connected to being a piece of the big creator, the big all that is, being connected to our I am presence. To hold that so incredibly dearly within us, and then to have such incredible faith that faith then turns around and protects us, because there's like just this unwavering belief in the divine, this unwavering belief. It gives me chills. So to stand up to the 3D, to stand up to the face of the patriarchy and just do it anyway, defying death, being unafraid to die, and just being like, no, this is my faith, this is my truth. Christian tradition, because of religion, has become so incredibly distorted that I have a feeling the words I'm saying are probably very triggery to a lot of people. I know if my husband was listening to this, he would be triggered at a 10 because he cannot stand any of this stuff. And I can't express this enough, that the energies of something, the energies of Christ, the Christ light, is nothing to do with how that has been taken and distorted and packaged as religion to control people. The notion that you have to go through a priest or a saint to get to God, it's not true. It's almost like this bizarre pyramid scheme or something. And the church became incredibly wealthy to be that connection between the people and God. And also, there was a time when it was necessary, but that is not the time we're in now. Necessary because there wasn't consciousness where there's consciousness now. You do not need religion to be moral, to be a moral individual. It's just, they don't go hand in hand. And yet, I understand in the timeline and evolution of humanity, there was maybe a time when that was incredibly important and the people did need that. But that is just simply not the case anymore. We can do this for ourselves. Do you know how scary that is to organized religion? For us to be like, oh my gosh, I am self-ordained. I can baptize myself. I am connected to my higher self. I am a piece of God. I am a piece of this, and you are too. We each are. But you recognize that essence within each of us, and to be able to live our lives like so incredibly connected to source, following our intuition, bringing to healing the distorted feminine, healing the distorted masculine, bringing them into their divinity, the divine masculine, the divine feminine, bringing them together in the yin and the yang within each of us, within each of our hearts, within our bodies, for us to then become that perfect vessel of light, to be able to bring and anchor light from the heavens through our bodies into the earth. To transcend this bizarre 3D reality that we all agreed upon is reality, and to create our own heaven on earth for ourselves by working through all of our things, getting our bodies clear, and recognize that we are part of the divine. It makes life on earth a lot easier. It helps our planet. It helps us because we believe in a more just future because there's this recognition that we are all one. I am you, you are me, we are one. There is a unity, yet we are on earth experiencing separation intentionally. Intentionally to then go through the trials and tribulations of life to return to the point where we recognize the fact that we are all part of one. And as more people wake up to this understanding and realization, what do we have is a world where we will build more equality, equity, equanimity. We will build a place that is more in alignment with serving all. We'll get out of this nonsense, this greed and holding on to so much out of fear. And there's more than enough for all of us. And we're really moving towards a time when each individual soul will be able to learn to recognize their own greatness. That we are watching the crumbling. We are watching the fall of the patriarchy. Things that were will no longer stand. Anyway, I was talking about channeling. So this morning, and meanwhile then I got sidetracked telling you THECLA's story. The Goonies is one of my favorite childhood movies, being a product of the 1980s. And I don't know how many times I've watched that movie, but it was definitely a favorite. And there was like a special features on one of the old DVDs I had. And they were showing like the behind the scenes making of that movie. And Steven Spielberg told Sean Astin the story that he wanted then to like have Sean Astin retell to, like, it wasn't scripted. He wasn't like memorizing a dialogue. He was like telling it as if a child was telling this, retelling a bedtime story, basically, when he's talking about One-Eyed Willie and telling the story of how that all played out. And I feel like you just got a very childlike version of the acts of Thecla and Paul. Yeah. So please forgive me. That is like the Frida retelling of something that I have read in the past. Listened to in the past. Why do I want to tell you any of this stuff? Because I have this amazing connection with THECLA. She's the bomb. I'm very interested in her. And this morning when I was sitting in meditation, I opened up my channel and was channeling and talking to THECLA, at least the energy that is THECLA. When I channel and talk to energies that are not here, they're not in our 3D reality. So energies that are beyond, when I talk to them, they often use the word we. So I would often use the word collective when talking about who is coming through the channel at that time. And so I'm testing out the words THECLA collective in my mouth, and that doesn't sound right. But the words that do sound right are like the Church of THECLA. I like that. I like the words the Church of THECLA. And feeling into it, I feel like she would too. Yeah. Or the energy that is of. So THECLA shared some really awesome information with me this morning. And I recorded myself channeling because I often can't totally remember what comes through, and it is helpful for me to hear it afterwards. So she has given me some beautiful marching orders in which I will take deeply into my heart, but I am excited to share with you that I will be channeling for you at some point, and also maybe channeling online in some smaller snippety style versions of things. I was able to talk to a mentor the other day who is a lovely human who has had multiple businesses in their life. They're totally tapped in. They're an amazing person and just somebody I truly respect. And they were able to give me some advice and had talked to me about TikTok. And then I was talking to a friend about TikTok this morning, like, what do you know about TikTok? And they were like, also look at Red Note. So those are two things that I have just completely steered clear of. I'm only on Instagram at this point. And it's something that hasn't exactly resonated with me. It's not making any kind of impact. But what it is doing is getting me comfortable with the social media platform where I put my face out there, and got it to a point where, like, as I'm making this podcast with you, it doesn't really matter. I just throw my face up on YouTube too. So all of that is like practice to getting comfortable. So you heard it here first. I will be working on channeling and eventually just sharing that publicly. Maybe that's the way that this goes. I honestly don't know. I say to the universe, show me how it gets better. Show me a life that I can't even imagine. It's better than I could imagine. It's better than my wildest dreams. And kind of what's coming through is, oh, okay, cool. We're going to just do some channeling. And there's no just about it. Like, listen, to get to the point to do this work, it is a lot of work. And with everything, you have to practice, practice, practice. So I will be practicing. I need to learn more about channels as well, because something that's very interesting to me is when I think of channels, I think of like Bashir and Abraham, and these are not channels that I've spent much time listening to, but in my peripheral, I know about them. And then my teacher, Rennie, channels the Galactic Federation of Light. So I'm very familiar with them because I've been with her like 5 years. I've been hearing from them for several years now. And I just need to learn more about it and maybe have invite the energy for a person to come into my life that sits with me and asks the channel questions so that I'll go into the state of channeling. And then it would be great if I had somebody that was asking questions to the channel. Because at this point in time, the way I'm doing it is like I'll break back and forth and be asking the questions. Or even if I just have the thought of the question, the channel will ask it. I don't have to say it out loud. But I think that it would be really cool for getting better at this to invite someone in my life that is the other side of this, that could be the practitioner and helping with that. So I'm opening it up to the universe, and I'm very open to that person coming into my life and having this kind of relationship to practice and get better, opening up this channel. Okay, so here's another thing. The beings, the energies that I've channeled in the past, I'm very, very, very used to seraphim, angels. I'm super used to, at this point, the Hathor collective, which Hathor was like an ancient Egyptian goddess. I'm familiar with Isis. But none of them have ever stuck around long enough to like get, like, I think of the channels that are out there and they're channeling like one group, like a lot. And I feel like I'm zipping around on the radio dial at this point, sort of being like, well, who wants to talk to me more? Who do I want to go deep with? Because it's sort of like I've been tuning into like different frequencies and different things. Or maybe I'm a person that just channels like whoever. I honestly I don't know at this point. Again, because you're meeting me very new. I think about this. I've been in business 2 months, 1 week at this point. Yeah. And as you know, because I'm very open about it, I am constantly working on myself also. Yeah. I think that the transparency of this kind of like glow up that I'm in the midst of, the transparency of becoming the teacher, becoming the thing, I think could be really helpful. And it's also kind of unique as far as I know, because we're very, very used to having the fully formed guru sitting in the front of the room, the fully formed spiritual teacher coming at you with the text that they've written after 30 years of intense study. And it's just like, no. I mean, I've been working on myself every single day of my life for 5 years. And 5 years into that, I was like, I want to share this with others, and got to the point where that was the obvious next step. Things fell into place where it was like, I enjoy doing this work. I want to bring this to the people. So yeah, that's where we're at. All right, so for today's Hump Day Healing, we've learned about what is channeling, or at least I can share with you what channeling is for me. And I'm excited to bring you some channeled messages in the future. All right, my loves, I love you. God, universe, source loves you, and I hope you have a wonderful day.